Hello, Internet. My name is Aaron. You are listening to Vital 100 Podcast. I'm excited to have myself on the podcast this time. I'm the producer for the podcast. Obviously, you're familiar with Dr. Bob. We've had a long time running so far. I just thought that we might try something, spice things up a little bit, have a non-health expert come on for a little bit and kind of interact with Bob on the show. So if you're liking what you're seeing today, please leave a comment below. Let us know what you think. And let us know if you have any ideas for future podcast episodes. How are you doing today, Dr. Bob?
I am doing great and just so excited to continue on here and try a little bit different format with you on as my guest.
That's what I'm talking about. Excellent. So I hope everybody's having a beautiful and healthy day. So today's topic is stress. So Bob, why don't we go ahead and take it off? What's the deal with stress? Why is this something that we should be concerned with on a health basis? Why care?
Well, first of all, it's important to define stress. Stress is something outside our body or within our body that puts an undue amount of input into our ability of our body to compensate. For example, if we have chronic pain or we have a scary incident happen in our life, this is stress to which the body has to respond to be able to compensate for it so the body isn't damaged.
Right, yeah. Okay. So tell me a little bit about this, because I know that there's physical stress, there's emotional stress. Do those things tie together in a way, like if I'm emotionally stressed, say I'm going through a divorce or, a family death in the family, will that necessarily have a direct physical correlation, or is that mostly just going to be in my brain?
Well, really, any form of stress, like you said, if it's pain or an emotional stress, or you're physically stressed, or, for example, you're not sleeping and you're stressed because of that, what happens, it all translates into production of a chemical from the adrenal glands. Adrenal glands help us handle stress. Now, there are other things in the body, but the adrenal glands are the things that really help us handle stress. And it produces something called cortisol, which is the stress hormone.
Yeah.
Now, when our body gets bathed in cortisol, in the beginning, very early on, it's good because it allows us to change our body to be able to handle the stress.
Yeah.
So, for example, if someone's running after us, we can run away with extra energy and so forth. So that allows us, that's a good form of stress.
So does cortisol can it give you a boost? Like if I'm really stressed out, say I took some exogenous cortisol, if that exists. I feel like we always try to keep cortisol low, but if I just took a big shot of cortisol real quick, could I run 100 meter real quick, supernaturally fast?
Yes, you could jump tall buildings in a single bound and
nice, yeah.
lift cars up with one hand and so forth. No, cortisol does give you that extra boost, that it recruits extra muscles, it recruits extra energy into your body so you can do amazing things that you couldn't over the long term.
I did not know that. So is it an analog at all to adrenaline, or is it kind of, because I know that adrenaline also gets released to some extent, norepinephrine, that kind of thing, when stress occurs? Is cortisol kind of a analogous kind of compound, or is there kind of or do they serve completely different functions?
Well, without getting too much into the chemistry, yes, they are very similar.
Okay.
And so it's what is produced by the adrenal glands to circulate throughout the body and recruit the muscular system, have your heart beat faster, have the brain function at a higher level. So they are the same or similar things that do similar process of getting the body ready to be able to handle the stress.
Right. Okay. Neat. Well, why don't we go into a little bit about what you had prepared? I want to hear about kind of what you might recommend for somebody who's going through either some stress right now or will, because inevitably we all will, but some techniques, some methods, or maybe even some products that we might be able to take to help bring that stress down or to deal with it more healthily.
Right. Well, first of all, I think it's important to understand that if your body is constantly exposed to cortisol or adrenaline, it really does wear the body down very quickly. And it will age you very quickly. It'll exhaust you. You won't be able to sleep very well, that kind of thing. So the idea is to bring the cortisol down. And so you aren't so stressed over the long term. What's one more thing that's very important here is that cholesterol makes a product in the body called pregnenolone, which makes all the different hormones in the body. So here's one more adverse effect of constant stress. So if you have constant chronic stress, that pregnenolone all goes to making cortisol. And so all the other hormones, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, thyroid, all the other hormones are negatively affected. They won't be produced and they'll throw it all off. So in dealing with stress so that your body can function better, you can be healthier, that kind of thing, the first and foremost thing is to eliminate or to minimize the event or thing that's causing stress. So for example, if you're in chronic pain, you want to reduce that pain. Hopefully not with something that's addictive, but you want to reduce that pain with something like anti-inflammatory. But there are other things you can do to take away that thing that's causing the stress. Now, if you have chronic stress, and we all do to some extent, it's important to be able to get good sleep. But there are some techniques and some ways to have your body better deal with stress and reduce it.
Exercise, I'm guessing.
Exercise is one. Meditation is one. Yoga is a very good one to do it. Certainly things like intimacy is a very good way. There's a lot of ways to do that. There's one technique that is very, very good, and that's called emotional freedom technique.
You've told me about this before with the series of head tapping and that kind of thing.
Yes, there's points on the head that you can tap, and instead of going over all those points, you can look it up on the internet. Look up under emotional freedom technique, also known as EFT. And you can find those points, and basically all you've got to do is be tapping those points and concentrating on the thing that's stressing you. Let's say your relationship or your job or something, or money, and all you need to do is concentrate on that and be tapping those various points, and it will reduce the stress in your life and the exposure to all that cortisol.
That's super interesting. I wouldn't have thought that there's parts on your face that correspond. I mean, there has to be some kind of neurological connection to the part, to the amygdala or something. Maybe that's why when I'm stressed out, I want to bang my head against the wall. There's a part of me that knows that if I tap some part of my head, that's going to help out. But
absolutely, there are connections. There's energetic connections. There's neurologic connections there to the different points that really go and feed into the brain, which allows you to reduce that stress.
I see.
So it's a very interesting technique, and it's wonderful, and you can do it while you're in the car, in a traffic jam. You can do it at any time. If you can't get to sleep, there's certain things you can tap and you can get to sleep. So that's important to understand that technique, and the points are very, very simple points, and you just need to be doing it for 30 seconds or so, and that should help you reduce the stress.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm going to have to try that out. So one thing I did want to ask you is when it comes to stress, because, I've heard, I'm aware of kind of the body, the hormonal, the cortisol response when it comes to stress. Is it a chicken or the egg thing when it comes to stress? For instance, say, I'm at a grocery store and a big bear comes in. Is me seeing the bear gonna make the cortisol coming out, or is the cortisol gonna be released first? Is that even a good question? I can't. You kind of see what I'm asking? Like, I guess when it comes to chronic stress, it almost seems like there can be kind of a cyclical thing going on where your cortisol is high that has an effect on your other hormones, and then say your hormone balance is off, and then it makes it harder to sleep, and then that can end up kind of reflexively adding on more cortisol to it, and then is that kind of a realistic?
Yes, and it's a very good question.
Yeah.
As we discussed earlier, the acute stress.
Yeah.
Maybe you turn around and all of a sudden there's a bear there.
Yeah.
That will stimulate the reduce of the secretion of the cortisol in your body to be able to quickly prepare your body to be able to handle that stress, whether it's running away or getting extra strength to fight the bear or whatever, fight or flight, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But the chronic stress that you've had pain for several days, you're going to have more pain and so forth. It's just it's a self-perpetuating thing whereby the anticipation of the pain or the anticipation of trying to deal with a situation, an emotional situation, it secretes or stimulates the cortisol, which again raises your stress level, and it wears your body down, which further stimulates more cortisol. So that's a self-perpetuating type of a process there, where the ongoing stress, the anticipation, is going to keep producing the cortisol until you proactively do something. Like
it's a vicious cycle. Yeah.
So that's where you have to say, you know what? If I don't do something, I'm going to have so much stress, so much pain, so I can't deal with this divorce or this lawsuit or whatever. And so you need to do something proactively to interrupt that cycle.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go and work out. I know personally, when I go work out, it's a very good stress relief for me.
Oh, yeah, me too, for sure. Yeah.
So your question is a very good one, but the excuse me, it's a slightly different response for chronic stress versus acute stress, and people have to understand that the acute stress is fine, dealing with that instant thing until you overcome it, versus that long-term chronic stress which just wears the body down and just is self-perpetuating and creating more stress until you do something.
Well, that's something I wanted to ask you about, actually, is when it comes to acute stress, are there different ways that we can prepare or handle amounts of acute stress versus, say, a car accident happens, or I watch one happen right ahead of my eyes? Is there necessarily going to be any long-term detriment to my health for witnessing that, or is that kind of convoluted?
Well, you'll notice some people in life get very flustered and very anxious about the smallest things in life.
Oh, yeah.
And other people, nothing bothers them. And that really is a conditioning of the brain not to get flustered by anything. People have a very even temperament. I like to think I do, and I don't get flustered by too many things or anxious about too many things.
Yeah.
Although if I turned around and there was a bear ready to jump on me, I would certainly
give a nibble.
Yes.
Yeah.
But overall, some people get flustered and anxious and stressed by the smallest things in life. One little problem with their checkbook or something like that might throw them off.
Yeah.
Whereas another person is just very easygoing or has conditioned themselves to be able to handle pretty much anything that comes across their table, that they can deal with it no matter what. And
I know
that's conditioning in life.
Yeah, it makes me wonder, because I feel like there's some people out there that could maybe stand the stress out a little bit more. They're just not, something bad happens and they just got that straight face like, okay. I know a couple of folks like that.
Right. And these are people who, one, they might have weakened or depleted adrenals, or they have what's called a very low affect, meaning they don't respond to pretty much anything, and that's a function of kind of low brain function. It really is that they don't respond to anything. At all.
Yeah. That's an interesting point to consider. Yeah. Well, so would you say that there's a way to kind of train, because I'm sure that there might be folks who get flustered real easily or find themselves in stressful situations for things that really aren't that big a deal, like you said, somebody can't find their keys for 5 minutes, even if they're normally pretty organized, or somebody wants Coke when they go to the restaurant, they only have Pepsi products, and then that, they start scratching their doing, like, they start shaking a little bit.
Right.
Is there, would you suggest that there might be some ways that people can kind of deal that, to kind of train themselves to use their brain to learn how to just relax when it comes to that kind of thing?
Well, let me give you an example. First of all, some of those things you were talking about is really an addiction.
Yeah.
And the ways that you get rid of addictions is to balance out the brain chemistry.
Yeah.
Sometimes a little sometimes a little psychological counseling and so forth can get rid of addictions.
Mm-hmm.
But the other thing is that you have to learn to train yourself to not respond to things that you would normally respond to. Here's an example. When we all go through junior high and high school and so forth, we're very worried and stressed out by what people think about us or say about us. Whereas at some point in your life, if you reason through that, you don't give a damn about what people think about you. At this point in my life, I don't really care what people think about me. I do my best in life, and if they give me feedback, great, but I don't worry what people think about me. Whereas when I was as a teen, you're very worried about what people think about you.
Yeah.
So that's a condition. That's learning to train yourself to not worry or be anxious about this situation or that situation, or if I bounce my checkbook, it's no big deal, I'll take care of it. What's helped me personally is know that I can deal with pretty much any situation that comes along.
Yeah.
And not be worried or stressed about pretty much anything. I may be motivated to change it, but not stressed. And so I live with very low levels of anxious cortisol.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of it's just training yourself and saying, I used to get upset and anxious about this event or that event. Let's see if I can train myself and my brain to not be stressed out about that.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you say that, because I notice, especially, around here, the Metro DC area, the traffic, if you're not accustomed to it, can definitely get your cortisol levels up. And, I think I came to a point when I would get so mad being stuck going what seems like it should be a 20-minute drive, ends up being 2 hours, and then I just start having all these maniacal kind of fantasies, like, man, there's too many people here. I need to exercise my anger in some type of a way.
Right.
And it came to a point when, I'm not going to say it comes to a point where when I watch other people kind of do that, and they're moaning and bitching out loud a bunch, it's almost, to me, it seems like kind of a psychological masturbation almost. It's like you're in this cycle of, you're getting yourself hyped up almost by not just kind of working on how to just maintain your levels. Because I feel like part of it too is kind of your brain, you using your brain to stimulate itself in a way that may not necessarily be healthy.
Right.
Does that make sense? Like,
Yes.
It seems to me like it's possible to stress yourself out. At the same time, you can work on not doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And so...
Well, to bring back a point we started in, if you can identify certain situations or things that are going to stress you, like traffic, then what you can do is you can do, preemptively, you can do the emotional freedom technique on that, being stuck in traffic.
Yeah.
And you can do it, and you can do it over and over again, and sooner or later your brain trains itself, and it's like, no big deal. I don't mind being stuck in traffic. I'd rather not, but I'm not going to get stressed over it. Or a relationship or money or anything like that. So it's important to identify things that stress you and do things around that while you're focusing on those issues that are bothering you.
Yeah.
And in that way, you start to uncouple the event with your stressful response.
Yeah.
And that's what it takes.
That's super neat. Yeah, it sounds like super helpful. I mean, especially for me, 100,000 years ago, there's all kinds of things to stress you out. So.
And so it's important in this day and age, when, as you say, there are many things to be stressed about, is you teach yourself and you become acclimated to be able to handle that stress without undue damage to yourself. And let's say if you're stuck in traffic and you're stressed, you're going to get to your destination right about the same time, whether you're stressed or not.
Right, yeah.
So why be stressed? So train yourself not to get stressed and do the damage to yourself, because it isn't going to do any good.
Yeah. No, that's super, super interesting. Cool. Well, I feel way more educated on how to maintain my own levels of stress. Is there anything else that you wanted to speak on today with regards to stress or stress management?
I think it's important. People have to understand the importance of being able to manage stress. Because stress is one of the key things that brings on illness, brings on disease, lowers our immune system, has many, many complicating factors. And so learn to deal with stress. Learn to reduce the stress in your life, and you will be much, much better off, and you will be able to enjoy the journey, as I say. Because a stressed life is not a enjoyable journey.
I like that. Tell me this: for some of our listening audience, if they're stressed out and they're not really sure where to start, or they want to learn more about getting stressed, how can they get in touch with us?
I am a high-level health coach, and I can help them with all those things. And so it's very important that they identify this, or even if they have a disease or an illness, to get the psychologic stressful component out of that illness. And many times the illness will resolve itself. So you can get in touch with me if you'd like some coaching, to be able to put all the pieces together, and you'll live a much more enjoyable life.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, you heard it from Dr. Bob himself. If you have something in your life that's stressing you out, if you're chronically stressed, I mean, he said it right there, identify what that is, try to cut it out of your life, and then do your best to, get the exercise, do the sleep, drink more water. I mean, you always got to hydrate. But if that's not enough and you're still having trouble dealing with your sleep, send an email to info@vital100wellness.com and we'll help you out. Dr. Bob's got your back. So, is there anything else you'd like to add today, Dr. Bob?
That's it. Just thank you very much for bringing this topic together. And it is an important thing that people should not ignore.
Excellent. All right, folks. Well, you heard it from him himself. And we'll be doing more episodes in the future, so stay in touch. If you have comments or you have anything that you would like to share with us about the episode, or if there's something that you would like us to cover in the future, leave a comment below on whatever platform this is, especially YouTube. And make sure that you like and subscribe to the channel as well. We're going to be doing content all the time. We post bi-weekly Mondays and Thursdays. This is really your one-stop shop for some excellent health info. And, we got all types of great stuff planned for the future. So thanks so much, and enjoy the journey.